Today's AskReddit post. What would instantly destroy your life just by doing it once? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. I have a huge fear of accidentally hitting someone with my car at night. Ever check the rearview mirror to make sure that actually was just a pothole you ran over at night? One day, Michael came in complaining about a speed bump on the highway. I wonder who he ran over then. Reconnecting with people who were bad influences on you. You'd be surprised how quick one can return to their old ways. Sometimes it's either that or be alone. A friend from childhood is in this boat. He alienated most of the people in his life over the decades from both poor choices and mental issues. At this point, I'm the only person from his childhood who still talks to him. Only family left alive is a single sister, and she finally had enough 15 years ago. So he only has a few people who he sees regularly, and they are just users. He's given up on life and says while he isn't actually suicidal, he would welcome death. As an older guy in the trades, duck around with safety. I've seen enough people duck their livelihood up by taking a stupid unnecessary chance. It's always a shame when you hear of a young tradesperson die because you know they probably don't know better or didn't work with people who were teaching them how to do it safely. Number one rule is come home at the end of each day. I see jackasses on Instagram all the time pooping on people for their PPE. Ain't nobody in the trades getting clowned on for having their hearing intact and still able to lift 45 pounds at retirement. But all the cool kids retire in a wheelchair at 35. Man, what are you trying to prove? Jumping into an unknown body of water headfirst. Seen it happen where some idiot jumps in headfirst and paralyzes himself. Sad, but it happens in less than 5 seconds. Happened to one of my wife's cousins. Hit a tree about 2 feet under the surface. Good lord, this is a fear of mine. Tree, rock, predator, whatever. They okay! Exclamation mark. Negligent homicide. I'm sure self-defense killings are not as difficult to handle as it is justified. Not saying everyone would be fine, but negligent homicide is another level. You drive drunk, text while driving, or not pay attention, and smack into a pedestrian. You're going to live in a nightmare. Deleted. May have dodged a bullet though. EU said not great judgment for that. Likely not good judgment for the rest. Probably committing a felony, because getting a job would be hard, renting would be hard, so I'm going to avoid committing a felony. I gave a ride to someone I thought was my friend when I was 17 to get his stuff back from his ex-GF. Didn't find out till the middle of everything he was actually breaking in. Long story short, I got a felony B&E just for being there, and 23 years later the only way I've been able to overcome it is having my own business. I definitely get that removed. In Minnesota it's like $250 and one paper as long as it's been 5 years. Unprotected intercourse in some cases. My ex insisted she was clean, but then I started getting funny looking warts. Got anal warts from one girl. Months of treatment to get rid of them all. 20 years later they came back. *internally*. Had to have them removed by colonoscopy. Yes, I used protection. She touched herself then fingered my anus during intercourse. That's all it takes. Pet the bison. Jump in the hot spring. Climb the rail. Hike into the desert when everyone and their mother told you not to. National parks are a gauntlet of Darwinian temptation, and the warnings are everywhere. The NPS bends over backwards to try to save you from yourself. There's a sign on an archer's hike saying you shouldn't do it in high heels, and yet, people refuse to learn. Any sort of criminal charge, because I would lose my nursing license. Even misdemeanors? Huh, never knew that. Apparently Canada doesn't classify crimes in misdemeanor or felony charges. I actually didn't realize this. When renewing my license it asks if I'm pending any litigation or have been charged with any criminal investigations or am the subject of any criminal investigations. Road rage. Guy I went to middle school with jumped out of his car and beat a guy he was road raging with so badly that he was partially paralyzed by the end of it. Guy was 19. and got a 45-year prison sentence. Completely ducked his whole life up and will only have a few years in the outside. And that's if he's lucky and lives that long. Girl I went to manuscript and HS with was the victim of a road rage incident. Guy pushed her off the road and killed her. Ended her life. Ruined her family's life. And ruined his own life cause he's in prison. Foraging and picking mushrooms you cannot identify. My aunt had neighbors who used to go camping and forage for mushrooms. On one of those trips, they made a stew with some mushrooms they had found. The entire family, 2 adults and 3 kids, died from eating that stew. My aunt wouldn't even eat store-bought mushrooms after that. There was an Asian family near where my grandparents used to live that succumbed to the same fate. Sad story. The poor lady lost her husband and children. Apparently, they'd eaten deadly mushrooms that looked nearly identical to a safe-to-eat fungus from their homeland. Meth, crack, heroin, and fentanyl all have pretty good track records of destroying lives. Time to introduce you /Spontaneous for those who haven't come across this scary story. It was also my first thought. One if not the most moving tragic poop I've seen around here. Never seen a happy crackhead, and I hear it only takes once. Former addict here. In my early 20s had a friend group of about 15 people that got hooked on all kinds of poop. 15 years later only 3 of us aren't dead or in prison. Suicide attempt. I survived a jump and broke my legs, feet and spine. It was an awful situation to be in, but it happened, and here I am. Hey, welcome back. It's a weird club to be in. Yeah, absolutely. I've had further struggles in the recovery process and grieving of a life I could have had with my mobility. I can't work and I'm desperately trying to. I don't want to be disabled. I feel a bit stuck, but I've got it in me to heal and return to study. It's just a hard road, bit like the one I fell onto. Lol, dark humor to cope. Close bracket. Losing your temper. You can be the nicest, calmest person your entire life, but everyone will always remember that one time you got angry. For sure. It's why my rule is never to make big decisions in anger. I've done some pretty impactful things in my life, but every time I did it was with a cool head, and I never came to regret any of them. Plus, because I don't often speak in anger, actually raising my voice tends to get attention. My kid cousin cried when I shouted at him because he was doing something dangerous, since he'd never heard me shout before. But he stopped, and I don't think I could have gotten to him in time otherwise. And my aunt and uncle shout all the time. Turns out kids just get used to it, lol. I fear one cigarette would make me a smoker again. I've been smoke free for a decade and I feel the same way. I have been smoke free for 16 years and I also still feel the same. I had quit previously and that one drag hooked me again for another 8 years. Now I know. Heroin. Marrying the wrong person. I basically just posted this. It's me, and I can't get out. And it's hell. I got out in November. After 20 years. You can do it. Making a dive on the Titanic in a vessel with the strength of a dented beer can. I'm still baffled at the utter stupidity of the guy who ran that business. In particular, that he thought acoustic sensors on the hull would provide any form of safety warning. Well, they would provide a warning, but what are you going to do about it 2 miles underwater? It would only serve to give you a moment to kiss your ass goodbye. Eating polar bear liver. It's not just that it kills you, but that it is a particularly horrible death. I'm pretty sure all of your skin falls off. You are joking? Everyone remember the series of Reddit posts from the guy that casually tried heroin once? There was a researcher who wanted to do a study on the plight of a heroin addict. The researcher wanted to get a real insight into the overcoming addiction or fighting addiction process. The intention was to take heroin a few times, then come off it, and write a stunning revelatory first personal journal article or monograph about the coming off heroin process. What happened instead was that another researcher wrote an article about how his friend, the first researcher, tried heroin a few times, became a junkie, ducked his life over, and was continuing to live the junkie life, making no attempt to come off the drug, and was like homeless, bankrupt and criminal. Shaving off my eyebrows and attempting to draw them back on with a Sharpie. Taking an emergency leak/took in the wrong spot. Better to poop your pants than to have to register on the to share list. I daydream about this often. For example, this week I was in an important meeting and thought, what if I cut off this person who's presenting and just start singing peas and balls. Balls, bowels and pepper penis. Money is tight at the moment and I have a family. This one small act could completely ruin my life. At least in the short term. My favorite of the entire thread. Thanks for the quick reprieve from drugs and murder and polar bear liver. Jesus ducking Christ. Drugs are bad mk. Loving/getting attached to a wrong person. For some people, cocaine. I'm sure there are recreational users doing okay, but someone I know tried it once and now it is pretty quickly destroying his life. The part that makes it worse is that the average person who sees him or knows him would never guess he has a problem. Those of us who know him really well see the changes pretty clearly, and it is very worrisome. He's always had an addiction issue with things, and this particular drug has just got a hold on him. He makes really good money too, so he can afford it, which also doesn't help. Fentanyl. I have seen scary documentaries on this. I watched it cause I'm prescribed fentanyl patches for my chronic pain. I'm in the UK, so I don't know if it's different in the US, and they are strict about controlled drugs due to the opioid crisis. But it's the only drug that means I'm independent and mobile and manages my pain. Without it I become disabled and highly in need of care. But I would imagine if I tried street fentanyl I'd become addicted. I tried heroin, I had everything going for me. I lost everything in 1 year. Been sober 10 years now. Giving out a second or third chance to someone who knows you good enough to know how to actually make you suffer. Meth. Not even once. I had to scroll down I too far to find this. Shagging my ex. Shagging this guy's ex. Or anyone not my wife TBF. Drinking alcohol because of my alcoholism. This is so me too. Been close to 6 years, but one sip, and I'm ducking, and back into a mess of poop. Congratulations on 6 years, that's amazing. I'm 2 years sober, and it's worth it. Yes, it's always that one sip that pulls you back into the cycle. Taking relationship advice from Reddit. The blind leading the blind. Jumping on an active anti-personnel landmine. I don't think the jumping part is what would instantly destroy your life. Not taking my meds / following my treatment plan. Ended up pretty horrifically last time. So glad you are able to recognize that the meds and treatment plan are important for your safety and health, even if they are inconvenient and potentially intrusive. Sad that you came to that valuable perspective the hard way, though. Hugs and health to you. Murder, obviously. As a chemistry teacher with limited supply of concentrated H2SO4, I totally agree with what you're saying. Little Timmy was a chemist. Little Timmy is no more. Because what Timmy thought was H2O was H2SO4. I really want to hold a teaspoon of Neutron Star. Neutron Stereus. Part of a healthy and balanced breakfast. 59. 6 feet 3 inches. 320 pounds. I'm gonna say gymnastics. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Russian roulette. 5/6 players say it's perfectly safe. Sailing and parachuting. Ixomian survived a 30k feet fall with no parachute and only had a limp. A skydiver fell from 14k feet after a parachute failure. I'm not lucky enough for these to be me though, lol. As an American, getting really sick, even if I survive, I'll likely go bankrupt from it. Ignoring signs of abusive behavior before marriage. Punching someone in the face just once. There are many cases where the person being hit has banged their head, suffering irreparable brain damage or death after being hit once, often when drunk. I've been in a few scrapes in the past when drunk, and it scares me to think how one action/reaction could have easily seriously hurt me or them. My neighbor's son died this way. Got in a fight. Guy punched him. He fell back and hit his head on the concrete curb and died. Eating 290 tons of gravel. Oh man, I'm at 280. 9 tons left before it's dangerous. Don't quit now. Cheating. Yep. Was scrolling to find this. I love my husband so much, and if I ever cheated it would completely ruin my life. A suicide. Poking a grizzly bear in the eye. Yeah. Black bears only. Polar bear is also totally fine. Getting registered and jailed as a pedophile. Can confirm that one. Had a friend I knew back in high school and college. Back in college we had a girl-only high school right next to our main campus. Keep in mind high school here is about 12 to 17 yo. Jay would get out on the launch time and flirt with some of them. He organized party at his home while his parents were out, with naked swimming pool and quantities of alcohol. Got invited once. Skipped that one. A few years ago we had a reunion with our usual friends group from that time and he wasn't there. I inquired and turns out he got arrested for intercordial assaults on young 3 to 4 yo children while he was working at a daycare. The only we knew is because his sister told one of my friend. Searched on the net and found some newspaper articles with pictures of him entering court. Turns out they busted him with kiddo pictures too. He got cute off by his whole family and all his friends. Can't work or be anywhere near kids anymore, and can't use/earn a computer. We always knew he had a perv vibe, but that was way ducked up. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.